I never thought I'd be the guy to get like this. My wife, Sarah, was the woman I invested everything in: my future, my dreams, my trust. Our anniversary dinner was supposed to be our special night. Candlelight flickered across the table, casting soft shadows on her face. I remember the way her eyes sparkled as she talked about the plans we made: buying that house, starting a family, growing old together. I felt confident, even happy. That feeling didn't last long. Halfway through the main course, I noticed her phone kept vibrating. She kept glancing at it a little too nervously. I knew she wasn't big on hiding her phone, but tonight it was like she was hiding something more. Every time she picked it up, her hand trembled slightly. I figured it was just work stuff. She's a marketing manager after all. But I'd caught her lying about her job before, so my gut told me to pay attention. After dinner, she excused herself to the bathroom. I stayed at the table, my stomach knotting up. That's when I saw it. A notification popped up on her phone, a message from someone named. The message was casual, but the timestamp was recent, just an hour ago. I didn't need to read the entire thing. I knew what I was looking at. "Can't wait to see you tonight," it said. That was the only thing I needed to see. When she came back, I tried to act normal, but my mind was racing. I didn't want a scene, not here, not now. I paid the bill, and as we left, I made her walk ahead so I could get a good look at her face. Her cheeks were flushed, probably from the wine, but her eyes looked away quickly when ours met. That tiny flicker of guilt told me everything I needed to know. Back at home, I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was her lying to my face, her hiding secrets in that secret email folder I'd discovered weeks ago. She said she was working late, that she was busy with client meetings. But I'd seen the hotel receipts in her email, hidden away like secret treasure. They were from 2 nights ago. She'd been to a hotel with someone, and I'd never seen her so nervous about money or receipts before. Next morning, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I couldn't focus at work, kept replaying the night, the little clues I'd ignored. The receipts were tucked into a folder named Travel, as if she was preparing for some kind of trip. But there was nothing about her work that required hotel stays that often. That's when the truth hit me harder. She'd lied about her job. She'd been sneaking around, probably seeing this guy for weeks. My future was crumbling, all because she'd been lying for so long. I couldn't let this go. I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what yet. I needed time, clarity. The only thing I knew for sure was that my trust was shattered, and the woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. So I sat in my apartment, feeling every ounce of betrayal burn through me, wondering how I got here and what I was going to do next. The plan started forming in my head, cold, calculated. I wasn't the kind of guy to go ballistic or make a scene. No, I wanted her to see what she'd lost. I needed to find her secret email, get more proof. And then I'd confront her. But I also knew I wanted her to feel the weight of her lies. I wasn't going to just walk away, not without leaving a mark. I took a deep breath, feeling the tightness in my chest. I had everything I needed now: the receipts, the proof, the knowledge that she'd been cheating. It was only a matter of time before I executed my plan. And when I did, it would be her turn to realize that trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. But right now, I just stared at my phone, waiting for the right moment to make my move. I could almost feel my fists clench. The future I'd so carefully planned for us was shattered, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I kept my phone in my hand all day, every minute feeling like a blow to the gut. I'd been over that email folder more times than I could count, but now I was looking for something specific. Anything that could prove she'd been lying about her job, her trips, her life outside of me. The hotel receipts were just the surface. I needed to see her emails, her messages, her plans. Anything that showed she'd been hiding all this from me. By late afternoon, I found what I was looking for: a string of emails that confirmed my worst fears. She'd been having secret meetings, not just with, but other guys too. The hotel receipts weren't a one-time thing. There were multiple stays, multiple weekends away. The worst part was the tone of her emails: casual, playful, almost flirtatious. She'd been lying about her social life, about her job, and about who she was. All of it scripted out behind my back. I remember sitting there, palms sweating, the phone trembling in my grip. My stomach dropped as I scrolled through the messages. Her words, her tone, they were different from the Sarah I knew. She was confident, even flirtatious, like she was living a double life. I could feel my jaw tight and my fists clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. The betrayal was like a punch in the chest. I'd never felt so stupid, so blind. I needed to confront her. That much was clear, but I also knew I had to be strategic. I didn't want to just blow up and make a scene. No, I wanted her to realize exactly what I knew, what she'd been hiding. So I waited for her to come home that evening, knowing I'd have my proof ready. When she finally walked through the door, she was smiling, trying to act normal. But the moment I saw her face, I knew she sensed it too, the tension, the anger simmering under my skin. "Hey," she said, trying to sound casual. "Long day." I looked at her, my eyes cold. "You could say that." "I found your secret," I said, voice steady but thick with rage. "Your emails, your hotel receipts, you've been lying to my face for months." She froze, her eyes widened, and her hand went to her mouth as if she was trying to block her own gasp. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the emails I'd saved. "Don't lie, I know everything. The hotel stays, the trips, the meetings you said were work. You weren't working late, you were meeting him. With your little secret folder, your fake job, how long has this been going on?" Her face drained of color. She stammered, trying to deny it, but I didn't give her a chance. I shoved the phone closer to her face. "Don't pretend you don't know what I've seen. I've been blind, Sarah. I trusted you, and you've been lying every step of the way." She looked like she wanted to cry or scream, but she just swallowed hard. "It's not what it looks like." "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I shot back. "You've been cheating, lying, hiding a whole life from me, and I swear I'm done." Her eyes welled up, but she still tried to deny it. "It wasn't supposed to go this far. I didn't want you to find out." I shook my head, feeling my pulse pounding. "Too late for that. You've ruined everything, our future, the plans we made, all of it." She looked at me with desperation, but I'd already made up my mind. This wasn't just about catching her cheating. It was about ending the betrayal once and for all. I had to decide what to do next. I knew I couldn't just walk away without making her feel the loss, the pain, the damage she'd caused. I wanted her to understand the weight of what she'd done, but I also knew revenge would require precision, patience. I took a step back, still staring at her. "You've been lying to me for months. It's over. Pack your things. I want you out of my place tonight." She looked like she was about to protest, but I cut her off. "No excuses. You want to lie, cheat, and hide? Fine, but I won't be part of this anymore." Her shoulders sagged and she nodded slowly. "I understand." I turned away, feeling the adrenaline course through my veins. I had everything I needed now, the proof, the confrontation, the final blow. It was all about timing. Tomorrow I'd execute my plan, but tonight I just wanted her gone. I wanted her to feel the cold truth. Her lies had shattered everything I believed in. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the dark, going over every detail, every step, wondering how I'd finally put an end to this deception. The future I'd planned was gone, that much was clear. Now I had to decide what vengeance would look like. The thought made my fists tighten again. I'd prove her wrong. I'd make her regret what she'd done. And once she left, I'd reclaim what was mine, the peace she'd stolen. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a train. My head was heavy, stomach knotted than ever. I knew what I had to do, but executing it was another story. I spent hours planning the steps, making sure every detail was crystal clear. No reckless moves, no slip-ups. I wanted her to understand the full weight of what she'd done, but I also didn't want to make things worse than they already were. First, I needed to get into her email account. I waited until she left for what she claimed was a meeting, but I knew better. She'd been lying about everything, so I had to be careful. I sat at my laptop, feeling the cold metal under my fingers, heart pounding in my chest. I had to stay calm. I typed in her email address and password. A rush of adrenaline hit me when I finally got in. It was like I was stepping into her secret world. Her inbox was full of lies, of course. I sifted through her messages, focusing on the recent ones, those hotel receipts, the flirtatious messages, the plans with. I downloaded everything I could find, screenshots, emails, receipts. I wanted to make sure I had proof that I also found details about the hotel bookings, dates, times, the names she used, things I could use to make her see how deep her deception ran. I knew I couldn't just confront her immediately. I had to have the upper hand. So I started crafting a plan, a way to make her realize she'd lost everything without making her feel like a complete monster. I wanted her to understand the damage, to feel the betrayal as acutely as I was feeling it. By noon, I was ready. I printed out the proof, gathered all the evidence I'd collected, and tucked it away in a folder. I sat back, took a deep breath, and stared at the pile. It looked like cold, irrefutable truth. I knew I couldn't keep this bottled up anymore. The moment to strike was coming. When she finally came home that evening, I was waiting in the living room. She looked nervous, a little more subdued than usual. I could tell she was already sensing what was coming. "Sit down," I said quietly but firm. "I have something to show you." She hesitated, then slowly sat on the couch. Her eyes flickered nervously. "What is this?" I handed her the folder. "All your emails, all your receipts, everything I found in your email. Care to explain why you've been lying to me for months, why you've been cheating and hiding it from me?" Her face went pale, eyes darting as she tried to come up with some excuse. "It's not what it looks like." "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I shot back, voice rising. "You've been lying to my face, sneaking around with, lying about your job. How long has this been going on?" She looked down, silent for a second, then whispered, "I was just confused. It wasn't supposed to go this far." I felt my jaw tighten, fists clenched. "Confused? You're telling me you've been sneaking around, staying in hotels, cheating on me, because you were confused?" "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, voice cracking. "I was just lost, okay? I didn't know how to tell you." "No, you just didn't want to tell me the truth," I said bitterly. "You thought you could get away with it forever, but I see everything now. I see who you really are." She looked ready to cry. "I didn't want to hurt you." That made me laugh bitterly. "Too late for that. You've hurt me more than you'll ever know, but I'm not going to let this slide." Her eyes filled with tears and she reached out for me. "Please don't do this. We can fix it. I love you." I stepped back, feeling the cold rage simmering under my skin. "Love? You're kidding, right? Love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't lie, cheat, and betray. You've destroyed everything." I paused, gathering my thoughts. "Pack your things. I want you out of here tonight. I don't want to see you anymore." She looked desperate now, begging, "Please, can we talk? Just give me a chance to explain." "No," I said firmly. "I've heard enough. You're not who I thought you were, and I don't want to hear your excuses. Just leave." She hesitated, tears streaming down her face, then slowly stood up. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice trembling. I watched her leave, feeling a strange numbness settle over me. I couldn't believe it was over, everything I'd worked for, everything I'd dreamed of with her. Gone, just like that. As she closed the door behind her, I knew I had a choice: stay broken or take control. The first step in my revenge plan was complete. I'd shown her I wasn't blind, that I knew everything. Now I had to go further, make her realize she'd lost more than she ever imagined. But first, I'd sit here, feeling the hollow ache in my chest, letting the reality sink in, that the future we'd built was shattered and I was on my own now. The silence after she left was deafening. I sat on the couch, staring at the empty doorway, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd finally done what I'd been planning, confronted her, laid everything out, and made her leave. But the ache in my chest was heavy, like a stone settled deep within. I knew that was just the beginning. If I was going to truly make her regret what she'd done, I had to go all the way. Later that night, I pulled out the evidence I'd collected. The hotel receipts, the emails, the messages, they all told a story. I wasn't just hurting her, I was about to make her see how thoroughly she'd betrayed me. While she was crying and begging to stay, I'd been mapping out my next move. Revenge, I decided, had to be subtle but devastating. It had to hit her where it hurt, not with screaming or violence, but with cold, undeniable truth. I spent the next few hours drafting a plan. First, I'd send her a carefully worded message, something that implied I knew everything but didn't blow up her world all at once. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices slowly sinking in. Then I'd contact her, the guy she'd been cheating with. I had his number from her email threads. I'd let him know I knew exactly what he was up to and that I was about to return the favor. Next, I'd take every piece of proof I had and send it to her employer. Not in an angry, shouting email, but as a professional warning. Clearly, her secret life was a threat to her career if it ever got out. That would ensure she'd lose her job if she didn't fix her mess. I wanted her to feel the consequences in every corner of her life, not just in our relationship, but the final move. That was the most satisfying. I was going to make her realize she'd lost her safety, her trust, and her sense of control. I planned to leave her a note somewhere she'd find it. No threats, no cheap shots, just the truth, plain and simple. I'd tell her I'd uncovered everything and she'd never be able to escape the consequences of her betrayal. That she'd wake up one day and understand what she'd thrown away. I knew I had to act fast. The next morning I went out and bought a locked box. Inside I placed all the proof, screenshots, receipts, copies of her emails, and sealed it tight. I'd leave it somewhere she'd notice, somewhere she'd have to confront. I didn't want to make her feel just guilt. I wanted her to feel shame, regret, and the full impact of her actions. Before I left for work, I wrote the note. You thought you could hide your lies, but I found out everything. You've betrayed me in the worst way. This isn't just about cheating, it's about who you really are. When you see this, know that your choices have consequences. Don't bother trying to explain. You've already lost everything that mattered. I signed it with my name, then placed the box in her car, in plain view but hidden enough to catch her off guard. Watching her find it would be the moment I'd finally see her realize what she'd thrown away. It wasn't about revenge for the sake of revenge. It was about making her face her own failure, her own lies. I wanted her to understand that betrayal is a two-way street, and she'd crossed it so many times she couldn't undo what she'd done. That night, I waited anxiously, wondering if she'd even look at it. I knew she would. Everyone has a breaking point, and I'd made sure she'd reach hers. The sound of her footsteps coming home echoed through the apartment. I stayed calm, but my heart was pounding like a drum in my chest. When she opened her door, I saw her stop, eyes narrowing at the sight of the box in her car. She hesitated then, slowly approached it. I watched her as her hand trembled, her eyes flickering with a mixture of curiosity and dread. She looked around like she was trying to figure out what it was doing there. Then her eyes landed on the note. Her face drained of color as she read my words. I saw her swallow hard, clutching the note as if it was a lifeline or a weapon. That was the moment I felt satisfaction. I had finally made her face it all, her lies, her betrayal, her shattered trust. The ball was in her court now. She could run, deny, or accept what she'd done, but I knew I'd made my point. The future I'd planned was gone, but I wasn't done. Not yet. As she stared at the note, I felt a strange calm settle over me. I'd taken the first step, laid everything bare. Now all I could do was wait and see how she'd respond. But I knew one thing for sure. She'd never forget what she'd lost, and I'd never forget what I'd done to make her see it. The days that followed were a whirlwind of cold silence and tense anticipation. I stayed out of her way, watching her from a distance, waiting to see how she'd react to the evidence I'd left her. Every time I saw her sitting alone, staring at the note or the proof I'd hidden, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. Part of me wanted to believe she'd realize the gravity of her betrayal and somehow try to fix it. But deep down, I knew better. She spent hours just sitting on the couch, holding that piece of paper, her face blank except for the occasional flicker of tears. I knew she was doing a lot of thinking, probably about what she'd lost, what she'd done, and how I'd found her out. I didn't bother to check her phone or email anymore. I'd done enough damage. It was clear she was consumed by guilt, and I was content letting her stew in it. One afternoon, she finally broke the silence. I was in the other room when I heard her voice, faint but trembling. Why did you do this? I walked in slowly, crossing my arms. You mean, why did I leave you that note? Why did I finally show you the truth? She looked up at me, eyes red and swollen. I didn't want to lose everything. I thought I could get away with it, hide it all, but I see now I was wrong. I thought I was smart, but I was. Yeah, I said flatly. You were. You lied for so long you thought you could just keep it hidden forever, but I found out everything. The hotel receipts, the emails, the secret folder, I saw it all. She nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. I was stupid. I thought I could have my cake and eat it too. I never meant to hurt you, I swear. I was just confused and I didn't know how to fix it. I shook my head, feeling the anger still simmering just below my skin. Confused? You lied about your job, about your trips. You cheated on me. That's not confusion, that's betrayal, and I don't think I can ever trust you again. She reached out, trembling. "Please give me a chance. I'll do anything, therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. Just don't throw it all away." I looked at her, feeling the cold emptiness settle in my chest. "It's too late. If you really loved me, you wouldn't have done any of this in the first place. The trust is gone. You broke it, and I can't fix that, not anymore." She burst into tears, sobbing so hard her body shook. "I'm sorry, I never wanted to lose you. I was so lost. I thought I could have both worlds, and I was wrong. Please don't abandon me." I looked away, feeling nothing but the ache of loss. "You chose your lies over us, over me. I hope you understand what you've done. Because I sure as hell do, and I won't be part of this anymore." Her words turned to desperate pleas, but I was already walking away. I had made my decision. Standing there, I realized that no amount of apologies or promises could fix what she'd broken. The damage was done, and I'd made sure she'd feel it. That night, I went through my belongings, packing only what I needed. I didn't want to drag this out. I called a friend, someone I trusted, and asked if I could stay with him for a while. I felt like I'd been gut-punched, but I knew I had to reclaim some control. I was done waiting, done hoping she'd change her mind. Before I left a small note on the door. "You lost me. I hope you understand now what you threw away. Don't try to contact me, it's over." I slipped the keys into an envelope and placed them on the kitchen counter. I didn't want her to have any part of my life anymore. Driving away, I felt the cool night air hit my face, sharper than anything I'd experienced before. It was like a purge, a clean break from the mess she'd left behind. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so trusting. Now all that was left was the sting of betrayal and the hope that someday I'd find a way to move on. Looking back now, I realize that sometimes the only way to heal is to cut out what's toxic. I didn't want her apology or her tears. I wanted her to understand she'd lost the person she once loved, forever. And I would carry that loss with me, knowing I'd done what I needed to do to reclaim my dignity. The question is, how do you rebuild after such a blow? That's what I'm still figuring out. But one thing for sure, trust once broken is a hard thing to mend, and even harder to forget. In the days that followed, I felt like I was walking through a fog. Every morning was a struggle, waking up with an ache that no amount of distraction could cure. I kept replaying everything: the betrayal, the lies, the moment I handed her that note and watched her realize she'd lost it all. It was like a weight pressing down on my chest, but at the same time a strange sense of relief started to creep in. I'd taken control. I'd done what I had to do. No matter what, I was finally free from the chaos she'd created. The first few nights I stayed with a friend. His place was small but familiar, quiet, safe. I remember sitting on his porch, staring at the stars and feeling numb. I didn't cry, but I felt a hollow ache that didn't seem to go away. I wasn't sure if I was more angry or hurt, probably both. I just knew I had to keep moving forward, even if the road ahead looked uncertain. People say time heals all wounds, but I've learned that's not always true. Sometimes you just learn to live with the scars. I kept telling myself that the pain was just a sign I'd loved deeply, and that someday I'd find someone who deserved that love. But for now, I had to focus on rebuilding myself piece by piece. One thing I did was cut out all contact with her. No texts, no calls, no social media. I didn't want to see her or hear her voice. Every time I thought about reaching out, I remembered the look in her eyes when she found the proof, the way her face crumpled when she realized she'd lost everything. That image kept me grounded. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I also started going to the gym regularly. It was painful at first, sweat, exhaustion, muscles trembling, but it helped clear my mind. Physical exertion forced me to focus on something other than my pain. The adrenaline helped me feel alive again. Slowly, I was rebuilding my strength, my confidence, even if my heart was still raw. One evening, I sat alone in a coffee shop, watching people pass by, families, couples, strangers lost in their own worlds. I realized I could choose what that world looked like for me. I could stay broken, or I could pick up the pieces and move on. I decided to pick myself up, not because I was over her. Hell, I still felt the sting, but because I owed it to myself to be better. That day, I started focusing on myself more. I enrolled in a few courses, took up new hobbies, and reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the chaos. I didn't want to be defined by her betrayal. Instead, I wanted to reclaim who I was before all this happened. I deserved that much. Looking back, I see her as a lesson, a painful but necessary lesson on trust, betrayal, and resilience. She thought she could hide her secrets forever, but the truth always finds a way to surface. And when it does, it doesn't just hurt, it changes you. But it also teaches you what you're really made of. One thing I've learned is that revenge isn't about getting even. It's about reclaiming your dignity and making sure the other person understands that their choices have consequences. I never wanted her to feel broken just to see what she'd thrown away with her lies. And she did. I saw it in her eyes when she found the proof, and I saw it again in her silence when I finally left. Now I stand here a little older, a little wiser. The trust is gone, yes, but so is the pain that once consumed me. I'm not entirely healed, but I'm healing. The scars will stay, but they remind me of what I've survived and what I refuse to lose again. So to anyone else going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs. And when the truth hits, don't hesitate to do what's necessary, no matter how painful. Sometimes the only way to truly move on is to cut the ties that bind you to betrayal. It's not easy, but in the end, it's worth it. Because you deserve to be happy, not just in spite of your pain, but because you're strong enough to face it, own it, and move beyond it.